All right, well, let's kick it off. I'm David Haase. I'm here with my two best retail media partners in the business. We've worked together all the way back from 2010 to 2013. Let's just quickly introduce ourselves. Sean.
Sean Cheyney. I head up business development globally for QSIC now as of a week ago.
Just a week ago. Welcome to the team.
Yeah, Steve Triplett, similar situation, North American business development as of 3-4 weeks ago.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And David Haase, I lead the Americas for QSIC. I joined June 2nd of this year. We're all new to QSIC. Fantastic that we're together. We have a lot of history together.
Yeah.
I'd say early pioneers of retail media. Here we are, 2025. Whole new ballgame of retail media. More retailers on the scene. Like, let's talk about like what's going on in the space. Like what's working, what's not working, what's going on with retailers, what's going on with brands.
Well, I think that everybody looks at some of the tactics that have been done in the past. Sponsored product ads on for online are still king when it comes to online on a retailer's website. That's still playing a large role. Retailers and their brand suppliers are spending ton of money there. But now what we're starting to see, and this has really taken place over, I'd say, the last 18 months, is retailers are selling out a lot of that inventory. It's very finite. And so they're looking for other opportunities. And they're saying, okay, our stores, which historically have just been controlled by the trade, by the merchant teams, they're saying, hey, we should be having access to that. Every space in our store is an opportunity to give our brand suppliers to get in front of their desired customers. So why aren't we working together with our merchant teams to develop a better in-store experience? Still not turning it into just a crazy mess, but doing it in a very smart and intentional way, whether that be screens, whether it be audio, whether it be demos or things that we've seen in the past as well, but bringing that all together as opposed to having all their tactics fragmented.
That's a huge shift, right? Just from going from the website and doing connected TV to now a more holistic, like omni-channel, end-to-end opportunity for brands to touch that consumer during that path of purchase. Steve, do you see it the same way?
Yeah, and I think there's this realization that, everybody's been very excited about e-commerce. It's where all the growth has been. But now you can kind of see the projections leveling out. And we all kind of understand that, particularly in like a category like grocery, there are only so many transactions that are going to occur via e-commerce. And if you look out way into the future, maybe that gets to 30% of the transactions. That still leaves 70% or more transactions happening in physical stores. So retailers are starting to see, number one, there's only so much demand we can sell based on e-commerce transactions that you can buy through sponsored product ads like Sean was talking about. So where else can we go? And they're starting to realize we have these massive audiences of just people walking through our aisles. Like, how can we monetize that in a similar way to how we, monetized our online digital audiences? So that's a real fertile ground right now.
And how can we help guide that shopper journey in the process?
Yes. Yeah.
When you think about it, the monetization for the websites, they've done a really good job. They've done a fantastic job at taking, I would say, more than fair share based on the percentage of transactions. And now with an opportunity to reach the shopper with the right data and holistically show performance. I mean, this is where advertising should be, right? Are brands getting excited about this opportunity?
They are. I mean, all the brands that I'm talking to, there's still an education piece right now. And a lot of that is taking place at the agency level. Is the agencies are needing to explain to their brands why they need to be, let's say, in screens or in audio in their stores. You don't have to convince somebody at a brand why they should be doing a demo or why they should have cardboard in there. So a lot of times the education is taking place because it's with the media teams. If you're with the trade teams and they say, oh, we're going to do an audio campaign, they look at you and say, yeah, of course we're going to do that. That makes perfect sense. It's what we've always done. But the education is taking place with the media teams at the brands that are outside of trade. And they're getting excited about it, especially when they communicate with their merchant teams, because that's what's always been done. So it gives an opportunity for collaboration.
Wow, I kind of want to double click on that merchant collaboration. Is it happening everywhere?
So it's happening more and more. I mean, in the early days of Triad, we saw, especially, I'll just take Walmart as the example, and they weren't the only one, but you go in there and everything was siloed. They had the store team and they had the online team, and they would not talk to each other. And it took us going in and saying, hey, when you're doing your joint business planning, how about you get everybody at the table and, get your agency partners to the table, get everyone there and have a good conversation. And then you'd have the media team saying, here's what we'd like to do. And then you'd have the trade team going, oh, we didn't know you were doing that. Okay, then how about we increase the budget over here? And then you would have a brand that maybe came into it thinking they were going to invest $5 million for the year, and they walk out investing $7 million. And then you have Walmart, and this was replicated with other retailers as well. But they walk out, thinking this is pure genius when really just common sense and communication. But it's funny to see when everybody's talking, they come up with better programs, and it's more cohesive. The funny thing is, this has been happening in Europe for a long time, where they're not as siloed and separated. What we're starting to see when I talk to retailers now, and some are doing a really good job of this. Ahold Delhaize, if you talk to Bobby Watts, they're doing a great job of this right now, where they have a good collaboration and a good working relationship. And that didn't happen by accident. It took work. And you've seen this happen over the last handful of years, especially since COVID broke out. It wasn't an option. It became a necessity for that collaboration. And you're starting to see that become the norm now, as opposed to the silos that we saw in the past.
So let's just double click on Europe for a second, because if they're organizationally ready, if they're a little bit farther ahead, and they don't have as big of e-commerce footprints traditionally, they're a little bit smaller. So from my perspective, I see them already having like a head start in store because they've had to focus on in-store monetization. Steve, do you see it the same way?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. They actually have a pretty rich history of data they've been collecting over the last 15 years of doing in-store campaigns. And they do plan them together, the cardboard and whatever other in-store screens and media they have. They do think of it holistically and plan it in one place. And they've been tracking the results longer than we have. We've been 99% focused on e-commerce based, sponsored product listing, ads based retail media here. They started on the other side. So they actually have a lot. They can teach North America about the effectiveness of those campaigns.
And it's also the difference in, whether it's cultural or it's just the way the business evolved. Whereas in the US, it started a lot more with strategy, with tactic, to say what tactic are we going to, is it be online, and what tactic there, is it going to be in store, what tactic, where are we going to allocate those budgets? Yep. Whereas in Europe, they start with the strategy and the objective and the big idea, and then they work backwards. And when they work backwards, of course, you're going to have a multifaceted, that omni-channel campaign, and in-store is usually leading that. Yep. Nectar 360 does a great job of this, and they presented at Retail Media X in May out in London, where they had campaigns for Pepsi and for others, where it was everything from displays in the store to their online campaigns to huge banner wraps on major sports stadiums. So it was an absolute holistic campaign, and they were able to track and measure those results, and it was incredible.
Yeah.
Wow. And you were just in to Mexico. Any learnings real quick before I go on to our next topic?
It's all about the strategy. So not only are retailers looking at store as a central part of what they're doing, even when you have retailers like MediaMarkt Saturn, for example, that has really knocked it out of the park online, and they're saying, you know what, we're building out and really bringing in those in-store pieces, whether it be audio or screens, bringing that into the mix. But also what we're starting to see is collaboration is like the word of the day right now, where you have different companies, whether it's retail media platforms or brands, they're saying, how can we collaborate across the ecosystem where everybody doesn't need to go at it all by themselves, kind of like the early days where we're all trying to fight and say we need to build everything. It became, how can we collaborate? How can we work smarter, not harder?
Oh, that's great. Awesome.
Oh, before we move on, though, I have a story about that, because I just read an article. I think it was on LinkedIn. Somebody posted about one of their favorite games to play is to watch Super Bowl ads. And when the Super Bowl ad comes on, they go to a retailer site and search for the product. Because the theory is like, okay, you're creating all this awareness, you're spending all this money. So they'll go to a random retailer site and then search the brand, and then see if they actually coordinated the product display page and the media on the retailer's websites with the Super Bowl campaign. And what they often find is they'll search for that category and that brand won't show up. So you spend millions and millions of dollars to generate all this awareness. Some people are going to go online and research it, but they're going to do that search and land on a retailer site and get directed to another product who bought the share of voice during that. And it's just, the whole thing blows up.
That's a challenge of when you start with the tactic versus the objective and work backwards.
Right. And when those two teams aren't talking, and then brand's not talking to retail media and not aligning.
That's a crazy story. So the secret there is just build a retail media campaign. At the end of the day, be prepared.
Yes, of course.
It's also funny. One of the things we heard in the early days, and I don't hear it as much, I've hardly heard it at all over the last couple of years, is retailers would say, well, retail media is just a tax. Oh. Remember, we used to hear that all the time. They'd say, it's just a tax. Why is this not a tax? And we'd turn around and say, well, you're spending money on ad campaigns on Yahoo right now. Is that a tax? Say, no. Well, if you spend money here or you spend money in the store, you can actually track it and measure and see the results. Why wouldn't you want to have your ads and have a better opportunity to gain market share at the retailers where it's important that you win?
Well, it's like Steve's example of the Super Bowl ad.
Right.
You know, you're spending millions and millions of dollars, and what's happening? You don't have the retail components of that ad ready to be executed, ready to be grabbed and pushed through the path of purchase all the way through the cart.
Yep.
And so I like to say the brands need to wake up and make sure, no, it's not a tax, but make sure you're planning properly, like you said earlier, with the retailers, getting everybody at the table and having a more strategic and thoughtful conversation on how your brand can win. Then it's not a tax. Hopefully it's going to be a dividend and it's going to yield more. Yep. So I'm going to transition a little bit. If this is like, for me, it's like, this is like a throwback, right? It's like Back to the Future. like we've worked together at Triad. Sean, you and I worked together at multiple companies, but here we are under a new umbrella. It's so exciting.
It's funny because you and I have traveled. I mean, we've been to Australia twice together. We've been to the UK a couple times together.
Multiple
We've been
continents.
Canada a bunch of times together.
Dozens of countries.
Yeah, I mean, we spent my 50th birthday together.
That was happy birthday. So here we are. We're all together. Like, this question comes up in my mind, and I think I know the answers, but I think it's worth asking. Like, so why another startup? Well, granted, we're not in the startup phase as a company, but it has the feeling and that emotion of a startup. So, like, why QSIC, and maybe why now?
So it's funny. I had this conversation with my son. He's a college student, and he's looked over the past moves since Triad when you and I joined up with Citrus Ad, and then, you know, as gone on since then. He said, he made the observation. He said, it seems that you look to see where the market is going, and then you get right ahead of it so you can participate in that growth and really play a role in it. I was like, that's a great observation. That's exactly what I'm doing. And so when I look at what's happening right now, and when we were, you know, Citrus Ad, and as that became Epsilon, it was all the online piece. It was first the on-site media, then it was the off-site media, and seeing that growth. And then for me, I spent the last year with in-store signage and seeing some of that growth. And for me, it's getting ahead of it, and it's seeing how retailers are really excited about what's happening in the store. And more, as I'm having these conversations, they're talking about audio. And so twofold for me, getting really excited was, number one, where QSIC is positioned and playing a leading role in this growth of audio in the stores. But also, and you know this to be the case, the opportunity to partner up with you and Steve and Craig Preventure and some of these other folks that we've built two companies together. And it's fun. It's always fun to build things with the people who you always want to be around. And so for me, that was a big draw, not only you, but also getting the chance to meet with Matt and Nick over the last years, the founders here. And we've had great times spending time together in New York, at Cannes, at all these other places, and seeing their passion for the business. And then when it became, I guess, as some people have said it, Triad 3.0, with so many people coming, or V3 coming over, I was like, all right, it's time.
That's awesome. What about you, Steve?
Yeah, I'll echo some of Sean's sentiments. But startups in general are just fun because you get to build things. And for me personally, the best professional experiences I've ever had were at fast-growing startup companies for a bunch of different reasons. Number one, there's just tremendous momentum. There's energy. You usually have dynamic founders. That's certainly the case here. I love working for very dynamic, visionary founders, helping them build things. But you just get to touch all aspects of the business. It's almost like if you have an idea, you can bring it up, and it might get executed the next day. Might get shot down, but then the next day you get another one. You just get to do a lot and learn a lot. But then QSIC specifically, you know, if retail media is the hottest corner of advertising, in-store is like the hottest subset of that. You know, there's a couple of frontiers of retail media, and everybody talks about where it's going to go. Some people have been very vocal about this, like Andrew Lipsman talks about this all the time. Like, in-store retail media is the new TV. You know, traditional TV, linear TV is declining. Those mass audiences have got to, you know, you've got to find them somewhere. In-store has that. So it's just fun being at the leading edge of a very hot area of advertising with momentum, and like being able to build the solution for it. It's just fun.
I love it.
Big companies, you're like protecting the legacy, and it's about risk aversion and like not moving too quick and not breaking things and protecting the core business. This is all about moving fast and breaking things and building.
And it's also the culture as well, because when you join in, especially in an early stage company, the culture is everybody is just super focused. Everybody has that sense of ownership in the company, and they just want to see everybody rise.
Well, and there's this overwhelming sense that like we're doing something big.
Yeah.
Like if we get this right, this is real big, and it just makes it fun to work every day.
That feeling that we have right now at QSIC, it does remind me of the early days of Triad. Like we were all rowing in the same direction. We were all helping each other. Hey, I've got a lot on my plate. 3 people raise their hand, throw it to me. Oh, I'm here to help. You know, at the end of the day, I remember people walking around saying, I'm going home, but I don't have to. Can I help you? Like, what do you need done?
Yep.
And I feel that culture with us right now.
Yeah.
That's a really important similarity. And that's the culture, that's the people, that's great people like you guys, it's our founders, it's everybody's heading in the right direction. That's the biggest like similarity that I feel right now. If I were to like look at Triad and look at QSIC and the challenges, right? Like we're out evangelizing something that's new for a lot of brands and for a lot of retailers. It's getting a lot of buzz. There's early adopters. There's people moving in this direction. And that's exactly kind of how Triad was. Like everybody was starting to talk about it. Everybody knew it was going to be big. And then all of a sudden there was this push through and next thing you know, we signed 5-6 retailers and the business just starts to grow.
Yeah.
It's also not, we've been through it, so it's not scary for us.
Yeah.
And we had the same thing at Citrus Ad. When we joined, we all fit on one Zoom screen. And we grew that to 100 Zoom within a year. Yeah, people were just starting to actually turn their cameras on at that point. But it was
because we made them.
Because we made them. But it was kind of funny because we had all these things, and we would meet for an hour a day at the end of every day with a core group of people and say, what did we get done? What needs to be done today? What are the blockers? And we would just go. Yeah. And everybody was saying, how can I help you? What can I do to help you move faster? Yeah. And it's the same thing. It's what got me excited to join here at QSIC. And I was lucky last week spending time with some of the folks in Europe. And it doesn't matter where the people are located. I've seen that from our folks that are in Australia. I've seen that from the folks that are in Europe, and then definitely the people that are here.
Yeah. It's actually comforting having been through the Triad experience because there's so many parallels to what we're doing. Like when you have to think back, like when I was at Triad, this was a thing that didn't exist yet. And like you would have to explain it to people 3 times for them to get it. And they still never got it. They're like, why would I run banner ads on Walmart.com? Like that's like 3% of our sales. Like why would I run advertising there? It's like and it wasn't called retail media at the time. But the fun part was like you could see it. Like we were in it every day and we knew like it's all going this direction, but you had to keep having these conversations over and over again. And there were days where I'm sure we all thought, I don't know if this is ever going to take off. I don't know if it's ever going to go beyond where we are today. I just don't know if everybody's going to get it because nobody knew how to fund it. Like, where's the budget supposed to come from this? Is this my TV budget? Is this my digital budget? Like, how am I going to fund this stuff? How do we measure this? How do I know if it works? I remember we would look at Nielsen studies and we were making the case like, hey, if you run all this display advertising, we can show you it lifts the in-store sales by X%. But like we were constantly trying to think of how do we prove this out? We didn't have a lot of social proof. We didn't have a lot of brands who were like going on stage going, this is the best thing we've ever done. And in-store audio is kind of at that point right now. It's existed in the past, but never like this. It's never been programmatically enabled where it works like a digital network and you can activate instantly across a bunch of stores. And it's the same thing. Brands don't know how to fund it. They don't know how to measure it. They don't know whose responsibility is. And sometimes that's frustrating. But having been through it, it's like, we can figure this out.
Just when you opened up and said we didn't even know how to explain it sometimes, like what this is. I used to dread Thanksgiving because we would get all of our family together and they'd be like going around the room, everybody talking about their jobs and what they do. And when it came to me, like people are like, what is that again? Like, how does that work?
Your family's worried about you.
Yeah. People are like,
what does he do? I don't know. Those weird mortgage ads you see on the internet with AOL and things like that? That's what he does, I think. I don't know.
Well, keep in mind that at the time when we would launch with Walmart, I mean, they weren't even doing e-commerce. Like that's how early Triad was. Like they were just kind of like starting to maybe do it. They had a in-stores now section that we had created. And the biggest area of their site was like, where's my store? Like the store locator got crazy traffic. Right. And that's really where we ended up putting a lot of the media that would drive to the in-store section. So Thanksgiving was a scary time period.
You and I met Matt and Nick together. And I remember exactly where it was. It was at the Ascendant event in Palo Alto. We were standing outside. It was the last night. The content was done. And we were walking to dinner. And we're standing outside and we're walking with the two of them. And we just started chatting. And
that's right.
we didn't know what was going on. You were still at Epsilon.
That's right.
I just started at Vistar, and we were chatting with them, and that conversation never ended. We just kept it going. I had an opportunity to hang out with Mark and Matt and Nick and a couple others at NRF, went out to dinner and had a great time. And I know you spent a lot of time with them here in Las Vegas, in other places, and a lot of good time at Cannes as well.
Well, for me, I now thank you for reminding me about that, because I think we got off the bus and we're kind of like being shepherded into the restaurant.
Yeah.
And next thing you know, I'm sitting next to Raj, our co-founder, who's actually, his name's Nick. And, you know, we sat down and talked, and he was so like glowing about the product and the opportunity. And he was asking me questions like, well, how do we do this? Or how do we do that? And I could not wait to say to myself, like, how do I get to this company? Like, how am I going to work my way into this company and add some value?
And we've been fortunate because we've had the opportunity to work arm in arm with some really dynamic leaders in the space. And when you look at people and you start talking to people, my first impression was, okay, these are people that I would run through a brick wall for. Yeah. And they really have something exciting, and they're excited about it, and they have a good lens and a good purview. And that got me really excited, and every conversation since then was the same way.
So Steve, your entry in the company is a little different. You came from a competitor. Tell me a little bit about, like, what were your first impressions of QSIC?
I've got a good story on this. So this is how I found out about QSIC. I was working for another company in the space. This is 18 months ago, we'll say. And somebody on my team sent me a link, and they said, it was like, have you heard of this company? And it's QSIC. And I click on it and I go to the website, and I'm like, oh, that's cute. It's like, there's this little Australian company. They're kind of doing the same thing we do. Oh, they've got AI and they've got this in-platform measurement. And I'm like, it's really good tech. Like, I'm kind of glad they're not in North America, because I was feeling like we have North America to ourselves. Like, we're fine. We've got the scale. Everything.
They're all the way on the other side of the
They're all the way.
globe.
Yeah.
We don't have to worry about that.
I'm like, that's cute. Like, cool company. That looks fun. Cool little startup. And then I kept paying attention. I'm like, they kept showing up more and more. And then I think it was CES this year. I had the opportunity to meet Nick and Matt. We were going to meet up, and I'm like, I should network with these guys, and let's meet them and let's find out what they're doing. And I start talking to Nick, and he's asking about the business. I'm talking about our business. He's talking about his business. I'm like, yeah, we have a big sales team. We're selling to brands and retailers. You know, we're in grocery. We're in C-store here in North America. He goes, oh yeah, we're doing the same thing. I'm like, you're doing the same thing? You're doing the exact same thing? He's like, oh yeah, we're building. We're coming into North America big. And I really liked both of them. But again, I'm like, okay, these guys are serious about it. And then lo and behold, my friend David Haase starts talking to QSIC. I'm like, okay, these guys have real momentum. Like, and the tech is really good. And it's a genuine threat to what we were doing. And, you know, more and more I thought, man, I'd love to be a part of that. So.
Well, the story behind the story there is, at that conference, I was hearing a little bit about, hey, there's this guy, Steve Triplett, who works for a competitor who's hanging out in our booth, and you were making everybody a little nervous. What's he doing here? Is he like looking for intel? Little did we know, we were like, wow, this company's amazing. I think we actually ended up having that chat.
Yeah.
Next thing you know, I'm like, hey, I think we have an opportunity over here for you. So
yeah.
thrilled that you joined.
Worked out. Thrilled to be here.
It's great that you're both here.